What's up, y'all? She from Legacy Hustle here. I have a little request of you. If you truly appreciate what we're trying to do here and you enjoy the show, the sharing, the transparency, and the insights, as well as the inspiration we bring you with each and every episode, I need you to help us out as well by supporting. Go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, follow, and review as we work to get the word out to more people about the show. Also, please consider sharing the show with your entire network. Thank you. Enjoy the show. This is Legacy Hustle, a show about everyday people from the Black diaspora who decided to build something that impacts the generations that preceded them, the generations that will follow them, or a specific targeted community. We use the word legacy in duality, describing not only what is being established for a specific target market, but to also highlight the impact on a guest's own family and circle. The show will explore what their business is, how they got it off the ground, and trials and tribulations that our guests have experienced on their journey to legacy hustle, to both inspire and educate you, our listeners. I'm Sheed, I'll be your host. In this episode, we'll be talking to Rudley Kelly, a longtime friend of mine. We went to undergrad together. He's a realtor, author, and a real estate investor. Founded in 2015 in collaboration with his wife, Chenda, his business, K1 Home Solutions, is a professional full-service real estate investing firm that buys and sells properties throughout Georgia, Connecticut, and Ohio. In addition to buying and selling real estate, K1 Home Solutions is also a huge advocate for educating the youth on real estate investing. To that point, Rudley and his 7-year-old son, Jayden, wrote and published the book right over my shoulder, entitled Real Estate with My Daddy. It's actually available on Amazon. Quick plug. I'll allow Rudley to tell you more about his business, but he, his wife, and their 4 children are based out of Atlanta, Georgia. A little over a year ago, Rudley walked away from his corporate job to pursue his legacy hustle. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Rudley, thank you so much for being here with K1 Home Solutions to talk about your journey and how you've essentially set yourself and your family up for future success for years to come. Tell us about what K1 Home Solutions is and how do you go about generating money?
Will do. But first and foremost, just want to say I appreciate you and the opportunity for coming up on your podcast here. The Legacy Hustle podcast. I think it's a great thing that you're doing, just sharing information with others. So just want to say thank you first. But yeah, just about myself, I'm a real estate investor and realtor here in the state of Georgia, but I do invest outside of the state as well. From an investment standpoint, my business focuses on flipping properties. I'm also purchasing long-term rental properties, add to our portfolio. We also do short-term rentals in terms of Airbnb properties or in the middle of short-term, which you would consider short-term, with traveling nurses that do a little bit longer stays, 3 to 4 months or so. I'm also an author. My son and I wrote a children's real estate book together. So yeah. Oh yeah. Appreciate you pointing that out.
Right in the background, right here in the background.
Yeah. So yeah, overall real estate investor, realtor, and author.
Awesome. I think back to when we were in college together, one of those things that stands out in my mind is, our inroads journey, if you will, and trying to figure out how we're going to navigate corporate America. Like, what led to you saying, all right, I want to kind of build this business and launch, especially after having such a successful corporate career, if you will, Rudley? What led to saying, I want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to you, you actually introduced me to Inroads while we was in college. So definitely much appreciation to that. But yeah, as you mentioned, Inroads was definitely kind of the start to my corporate career. Definitely kind of got all the accolades, intern of the year type stuff. And got hired on into the corporate world, did some stuff with General Electric for several time and other companies and so on. But essentially, what my passion has always been to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to work for myself. It's something that I saw growing up from my father, who used to own a couple restaurants and Jamaican nightclubs. My cousin that owns nightclubs as well, and a few other family members that own real estate. So I always grew up knowing that I wanted to do that, but I didn't quite know when that time was going to come. So, as I kind of went through my career in corporate, kind of continued to move up the corporate ladder, go for the higher and higher positions. Eventually, it started to not sit right with me, feeling as if I wasn't really living up to my full potential. And I think that kind of turned that and kind of said, you know what, I'm not going to hold back anymore. Honestly, it was just a couple deaths that happened in my family, close family, friends, just passing away like in these past few years. And it really made me kind of look back on myself and saying, life truly is a blessing, but it is our only chance at, to do what we want to do, right? We only have this one opportunity. And I can't live in that mindset of just saying I want to do something and not pursuing it and being afraid to fail. So when I got to that point, my last kind of straw was, I had a brother-in-law who recently passed away, and went to my company and asked for that time off just so I can have that a little bit of grieving time. They gave me that time off, but that feeling where they're like, yeah, you had the time off, but you're going to be needing to catch up.
You got to come back to work at some point.
Yeah, you got to come back to work. You're going to have to catch up. We need you.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have a good taste in my mouth. And I kind of, from that point on, I was like, I'm never going to let another person tell me when or when not I can take time for myself, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. So that was kind of my kind of push to say, you know what, just go for it. If you fail, you fail, but you got to go for it. And that's what pushed me forward.
I dig it. You've highlighted a couple of things when you were talking there about your own personal journey. One sort of, excelling and doing well in the work world, and then trying to figure out, what's the right time to kind of step out. So you had the backdrop of family members and loved ones who had started this entrepreneurial journey. The impetus for you personally saying, all right, I'm going to step away from corporate America was sort of how they handled that situation with you. But where did you get the financial strength to be like, you know what, I'm just going to step away from the benefits and all that other stuff in order to make it happen? What was your story to say, okay, yeah, this is something I could do?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there was never really a point where I felt like I just had all the money in the world and like I'm just comfortable to just step away from the job. I never quite got to that point, but I did feel content in that I do have a wife. I'm married. She does have a full-time job, benefits and all that. So that was one of my main focuses. Like, I need to make sure I have healthcare for the kids. I have 4 children. So we were set there. I did put away, a little bit.
Can you run that back just in case people didn't hear what you said? How many children do you have, brother?
4.
So this brother got 4 kids, stepped away on faith, knows what he was after and made this happen. So for all of you who are tuning in, like, I don't know if this is the right time for me. I have a lot of kids and mouths I got to worry about. Listen to this man's strategy. He spoke about working with his wife. They had that conversation. Continue, Rudley. Didn't mean to cut you off. Just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great point. Like, you and your spouse, significant other, you got to be on the same page if you're going to take that leap of faith, and making sure that, she is or he or she is your biggest supporter, and champion and believes in you as well. So I had that, I was blessed to have that just off the rip. But also, in addition to that, I accumulated some savings, made sure I was at least good for a good amount of months without, having to be concerned with the bill. So I could really just focus on the business. And once I got to that point, I still felt like, man, I'd never seen myself going more than 2 weeks without a paycheck before, but this is new to me. Let's go ahead and try it. And once I did that, I said, you know what, I can't, I need to just go for it. Kind of burn the bridges, not in a negative way, but just saying I'm not looking back. I'm moving forward. And I took that step, and that was how I was ready to move forward.
All right. So you started kind of dipping your toe a little bit and talking about financially where you were coming up with some of the money. So you spoke about savings. How else did you come up with effectively your startup funds to do what it was that you're trying to do with K1 Home Solutions? And if you're willing to, can you share a little bit about how much that was, what that first place looked like, and the journey you took there, just to give people some context and perhaps inspiration, if you will, as they think about they're interested in doing real estate, what that could look like too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a journey, right? So I purchased my first property about 15 years ago. 15, 16 years ago, right when we got out of college. I bought a townhome in Waterbury, Connecticut. Thought I was going to be staying there for a little while.
Hey, sorry, I got to cut you off right there. That's my hometown, so I give you a shout out to Waterbury, Connecticut. All right, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's, bought that property in Waterbury. And, as I mentioned, I was in the corporate world. I was working for General Electric, and I was doing sort of this leadership rotational program where every 6 months, you rotate different part of the business. Part of that rotation, they had me, you have to do something out of state. So I decided to take the position that I was going to take in Atlanta, right? So I moved to Atlanta and kind of, started that process here. But essentially, in terms of how I got initially my startup funds is, I've done a HELOC, home equity line of credit on a property. I didn't do it on that specific Waterbury property, but when I moved to Atlanta, I purchased a foreclosure property, lived in that, and got a significant amount of equity, used a home equity line of credit, was able to get funds that way. I was also used what's called a self-directed IRA, or solo K, they also call them 401ks. And for your audience, if you're not familiar with that, essentially what it allows you to do, for those of you that have 401ks, or in the corporate world, what you can do is, if you have an older 401k, let's say from a prior company, instead of moving that or just transferring it to your new 401k, you can actually move that into a solo K, which essentially allows you to use those funds for what your specific needs are. Essentially, it's self-directed. It's allowing you to direct where those funds go. So I was able to also use those funds from my prior 401ks to use that for real estate as well. It's a great tool.
Was it something that you liquidated, or were you borrowing against it?
So you can do both. You can borrow against it. You can also liquidate it if you need to as well. So essentially, you can still use it as the way you operate as your current 401k if you're going to borrow against it in your current job. But This is more so for you to utilize those funds in a different way. So I highly, for your audience to definitely go ahead and look into that and seeing how you can do that. Not a tax accountant or anything like that. So make sure you do the research. But that is a way to get a good amount of funds, especially if you've been accumulating, these assets. So those are kind of some of the ways that I've been doing it, as well as once I've invested in some properties and got some experience, I have a significant amount of people that just say, hey, I want to invest. I want to learn how to invest. So that's called private money. I use private money as well to purchase properties. And then lastly, one other thing just to mention, I don't want to forget, also use hard money lenders. These hard money lenders are also lenders that will provide you, they're not necessarily looking at credit. Some of them do, but they're more so focused on the deal. Does the deal make sense, right? Do the numbers make sense? If you're buying a rental property, is the rent's going to cover the mortgage? And they will lend you the money. It is at a higher interest rate, but they will lend you the money, allow you to keep the business, allow you to keep the properties in your LLC. So that's another route that I go, and I still continue to go to this day. So private money, 401ks, solo Ks, hard money, many private money. There's so many different ways you can get money. So don't let that stop you.
And so, as someone who ended up transitioning into this world, as people continue thinking about some of the financial stuff, one of the things that you just mentioned was how important it is to sort of think about, is the property going to make you money, right? So how did you learn about that? How did you go down the path of being able to look at property in its current state and then see the future potential and then decide if it was the right move in terms of going to a hard money lender or taking private money and ensuring that you were going to get a return? What are some of those tools or resources that you leverage, Rud?
Yeah, so one of the biggest steps might have happened maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, where I joined an organization called Fortune Builders, where basically that organization essentially is an investment or real estate investment organization, education investment, and they basically teach you everything about how to flip houses. They teach you how to analyze deals. They teach you how to source material. They teach you how to just do a complete renovation, create scopes of work. And I invested heavily into that, cost quite a bit of money. But I looked at it as not only am I learning from someone, an organization that's successful and is already doing the business, but I'm also investing in myself, which is going to put that extra fire in me because I need to make that money back. So once I did that, that's how, essentially I learned how to do this business, or the first steps to learning this business outside of getting some additional coaches and mentors as well.
I dig it. I dig it. And that group was called Fortune Builders.
Yeah, Fortune Builders.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. In terms of challenges, right? So what sort of major challenges have you had to overcome up to this point in time related to your business?
I think, in the beginning, definitely, and especially because, like I said, I started going into real estate full time, left my corporate job over a year ago now. The biggest challenge for me was fear, right? I did not want to let my family down. I didn't want to let myself down. I mentioned I have 4 children. I have to make sure that they're good and taken care of. So I would say fear was definitely a concern of mine, because I didn't want to put our family in a financial burden or situation where it's going to be detrimental to my children's future, my wife's future. So that really was the biggest challenge. Many different ways I overcame that, but yeah, fear was definitely the biggest one.
You said many different ways you've overcome the fear. For our listeners, can you share maybe one, two ways that you've quieted that fear and you were able to overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways is, aligning myself with like-minded individuals, right? The people, one of the biggest lessons I learned is that you have to really mirror success, right? Success in whatever industry that you want to get in. So I was proactive in reaching out to quite a few people that were doing exactly what I want to do, and not, having any pride behind it, and just asking, like, how do you do what you want to do? If I got to pay for this information education, I'll do that, but I want to make sure I'm doing this the right way. And that helps settle my fear, just like in corporate America, right? Like, you only get nervous when you don't feel prepared, right? Or fearful when you're not prepared. So I felt like, how do I prepare myself to take this step, to feel like I have enough knowledge at least to take that first step? And that was reaching out to certain people that I know were doing this business, and I vetted these people and make sure they knew the business. So that was probably the biggest part for me, was getting that support system. I got that from Fortune Builders as well, because these are all other individuals that put their money up as well, aren't playing around, really want to do this business. And I surrounded myself with those people, and that helped me progress to the next step.
I love it. I love it. So I'm hearing two things in a big way coming from you as you talk about this. A part of overcoming the fear was effectively tapping into subject matter experts that you found through either your network or through this Fortune Builders organization, in order to understand how they've done what they've done, and they've been able to sort of effectively build in this vein so that you could emulate as well, right? And then two, it's just that constant learner mentality, right? That growth mindset, the ability to just tap in and continue learning and driving yourself to do more and more, recognizing that, hey, I've been able to do this in corporate America. Preparation is key. How do I prepare? Let me figure this out and learn as best as possible. And you're applying that for yourself, for your family, for the future, for that legacy. And I love hearing that, Rudley. One of
Yeah.
the things that I forgot to ask you to highlight and talk about was, how much money is K1 Home Solutions making at this point in time, right? And what's your expected revenue? And I know we just started this year, but expected revenue by year end, just to give people some idea of scale and where you're at and how you're growing, if you're comfortable to share.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 6-figure business right now. In terms of my long-term rental properties, my Airbnb short-term rental properties, as well as when I do some flips. That's typically when I get my large chunks of money at one point in time. So right
Yep.
now, we are, and that was kind of my goal, is like, I need to at least, because I left a six-figure corporate job, right? I need to be making at least six figures to feel like, all right, I'm taking the right steps. So I was able to accomplish that, in this
Are you making
first
more
year.
money than you were making in your corporate job?
Yeah,
Like when you
yeah,
left?
I would say, yeah, I would say I'm
And you
making
said you've been out of it for a little over a year now, right?
little over a year, little over a year.
So everyone tuning in, listening to the words of wisdom from Rudley Kelly, the brother's been out of his corporate job for a little over a year and has already made what he's making currently from in comparison to what he was making back when he was in corporate. So thank you for sharing that, Rudley. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off though. You sound like you had the things you wanted to say.
No, no, I mean, I would say, just for people out there that are looking to take that step, right? For me, like I said, the whole fear thing and all of that was an issue for me. But once I got started and I realized, I'm not looking back, I'm just moving forward, you'll just be surprised at how you start to find opportunities and pull things together, because you need to figure it out at that point, right? Like, there is no looking back. You need to figure out, how am I going to get this revenue? And you start developing multiple streams of income, right? Like, I'm saying this to say that, like, you can do it, right? There is the possibility, which it's been shown time and time over again, that you can generate money on your own. You don't necessarily need to be a part of a corporation, go to your 9 to 5 and do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying anything against that. If that's what you want to do, that's what you can do. It's been great for me coming up through that pipeline. And I've learned a lot, and I owe a lot to corporate because it's helping me run my business today. But if you're looking to step out and you feel as if, how am I going to replace this income? It is very possible to do that, right? And I saw a quote or a meme, I don't know if it's a quote or a meme, but the other day, where someone posted and was like, a salary is what corporate America gives you, or the drug they give you to help you forget your dreams. And that rang so deep to me, because I'm like, that was my biggest fear. I'm like, I want to do this, but damn, that salary, I got to keep that. That's consistent. Every 2 weeks, I'm getting that, plus commissions, because I was in sales, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the truth, man. That's what holds you back. But I'm telling you, if you really focus in on what you want to do, have a plan, and just put your 100% effort into it, you can make the money. There's so many ways to make money out there that you don't need to, essentially trade your time for that money, right? Like, giving up your whole entire day for that money. You can make that money with spending a couple hours a day, or work even harder, but you working the hours that you want to work, right? It can be done. I'm proof of that, and many others before me that I follow are proof of that. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for that, Rud. I appreciate that big time. As you sit back and you continue thinking about your legacy and where you want your company to go, right? Mind you, it's been active in terms of you fully focused on it over a year now. But future, right? You've spoken about your ability to flip homes, rental properties, Airbnbs. Where do you see this continuing to go?
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, I see this eventually growing into a multi-million-dollar company. Um, my number one thing is, it's not all about the money for me, but I do want to be able to be financially free, to the point where my wife no longer has to work either. My kids' future is set, and we can essentially do what we want to do on our own time, right? Like, the true essence of financial freedom. That's where I see our business getting to. I feel, as dollar wise, I feel like it's very doable to become a multi-million-dollar business. I'm actually tapping in now to doing new construction, right? That's another goal of mine. I want to become a developer, start building homes, which obviously has a lot more risk, but also has a lot more profit, right? I can make a six figures on just one new construction property.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm taking it right now. Um, so yeah, that's where I see the business going in the next few years.
Man, Rudley, I appreciate you for being so transparent and sharing some of these different elements, these nuggets with people, to just give them a little bit of a taste in terms of what you're doing and what they could tap into to potentially grow their own sort of dreams and aspirations that they may have. I'm going to hit you now with the 5-minute hustle. So rapid fire questions just to help people with additional resources that perhaps you've been tapping into. You already spoke about what initially held you back from becoming an entrepreneur, that fear, right? Was there anything else that held you back in addition to the fear?
Definitely money as well too, right? Like I wanted to make sure I had the money. I didn't know how to get the money. And I think that's one of the things that really can set somebody back, or even just set our culture back, right? Like we fear like how we can get the money. I'm living check to check right now. How am I going to step out and do this other business? But what a lot of people are lacking or missing is just access to information. And once you get around, like I said, like-minded individuals, you start getting access to that information, and then doors start to open up to see, how do I get that capital? Like I just kind of explained earlier, there's so many different ways that maybe us as, minorities may not get that education coming up. It's out there, right? But you got to tap into it, and you got to talk to people and find out how are they tapping into it. Exchange value with them too as well, so they can provide that information. But there's information out there, and you got to tap into it. So that's it. Capital was my challenge. I tapped into information.
So you heard it, y'all. One of the things that held him back, and it's a consistent theme throughout. First off, that fear. He spoke about how he's overcome it during the course of the show so far. Second thing is that capital. And he spoke about sort of how he tapped into the capital, right? But just the ability to educate yourself, that growth mindset, that desire to pour into yourself and what you're trying to build and establish will help unlock that for you. What's the best business advice you've ever received,
Rod? I would say it is investing in yourself. Don't be afraid to, if you need to, spend some money, if you have to invest in yourself. I've probably spent in the past 10 years, I've probably spent over $70 to $80,000 on just investing in myself, right? That fortune
What are you
builders.
talking about investing in yourself? What do you mean? Are you talking vacations and cars? What are you talking, brother?
I mean, that too, you got to take some time to enjoy the fruits
Enjoy
of your labor,
life,
but
of course.
yeah. But yeah, I'm talking more so about just, again, the access to the information, education, mirroring that success, right? Like the Fortune Builders program that I mentioned. I'm not saying you have to do that or spend that type of money, but I spent I believe over $30,000 for that education and tapping into that network. Like I said, you don't have to do that. You can do that much cheaper ways. There's other websites and stuff that I can talk about later that you can get similar information and network with people. But that's just an example. Just the other day, I just spent $2,500 to learn about new construction, right? Or from someone that's doing it at a high level in the city of Atlanta, or in the state of Georgia, I should say, because they're all over. You got to invest in yourself, because no one else is going to do it.
And again, what you're hearing is that investing in that continued learning, that growth mindset. All right. Rud, what's a business book, magazine, podcast, etc., that you'd recommend to our legacy hustlers to tap into if they're interested in taking a similar path to yours?
I mean, for
besides
me,
your book, of course.
Yeah, definitely. If you got little kids, definitely get that. Spark a little entrepreneurship mindset in their heads. But yeah, for me, I mean, one of the first books that kind of sparked even more so real estate for me was obviously like the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think everyone's read that, or a lot of people have read that, obviously. But that was one that really sparked the saying, like, I got to do something to get my own streams of income. I also read a book called Morning Miracle. It's not necessarily a business book per se, but it talks about like just getting your day started, waking up early, and just setting the tone, having positive affirmations in the morning, having gratitude, and being excited about just your day and moving forward. Because the way you start the day has a significant impact on how you're going to follow through and do all the tasks that you need to do for your business. So the Morning Miracle was a great book.
And is this the Morning Miracle, the not so obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. by Hal Elrod?
Yeah. Yep. That's it. Yep.
All right.
So yeah, I would say those two books were definitely good for me. I'm not gonna lie and say that I just sit and just read a ton of books all the time, but I am like a chronic YouTube watcher. So I get a lot of stuff off of YouTube. Bigger
Is there a
Pockets,
specific channel you tap into a lot?
yeah, I would say Bigger Pockets is one to if you're interested in real estate, right? Bigger Pockets has been a lot of information, and that's kind of what I was talking about, like other resources that are free or close to being free. Bigger Pockets is one of those. I would tap into that, their website and podcast and YouTube channel. Those are just a few that I would look into for sure.
All right. And then finally, to wrap it up, I was going to ask you, what's your favorite online tool, app, or internet resource that you actually actively use for your business?
Yeah, so Bigger Pockets still, because they have some intuitive tools you can use, some deal analyzer calculators, things you can use. So I use that quite actively. As I mentioned, I'm also a realtor. So I work with traditional buyers and sellers as well as working with investors. And because I'm a realtor, I have access to the MLS. So I'm using the MLS every day in my business. Um, and outside of that, like, I have my CRM that I'm using for keeping track of my leads or whatnot. I use a couple different ones. So there's my RIA Pro, my REI Pro. I use that as a CRM. So those are some of the online tools. And again, YouTube University, everything is on there. I spent hours and hours just listening to stuff.
So much great content on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you for taking us on that 5 minute hustle journey. Before we kind of close out today, I wanted to just give you the floor one more time. Do you have any other additional words of inspiration? Anything else you want to make certain our legacy hustlers kind of walk away with in mind, or just words of inspiration? Please feel free.
Yeah, I would just say, one challenge that I forgot to mention that you need to work on every day is your mindset. It's a constant struggle and battle and challenge, or it can be a constant challenge if you're not priming it every day. It's very, it's cliche. A lot of people say, you put your mind to something, you can do anything you want, but it's an actual thing, right? Like if you really focus on changing the way that you look at things and look at them as lessons learned, you start to not be as fearful of failure, right? You start looking at things like, all right, I'm gonna go out and take this leap of faith. I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna try this thing in my business. If it fails, I'll fail fast. Gain something from that and move forward, right? Like I'm always taking the lessons learned from things and moving forward. There's no failure unless you just stop, right? Then you truly like you just gave up. But if you're not stopping and you're taking that and you're making things bigger and better, that's growth, right? And as I mentioned, as investing in yourself, not only just in business, like just your mindset as well, like your own personal development. I invested in myself and did a great program, which I'm basically certified in now, which is called Neuro-Linguistic Programming Nlp. And as I mentioned, I was going through I had a lot of deaths in the family, and I heard about this NLP program that essentially helps you just understand your unconscious mind and what your unconscious mind is doing and what it's there for. And going through that program helped me not only personally just dealing with some of the thoughts that I had in my mind, but it really helped me to see business through a different lens and understanding that everyone has these limiting beliefs. You need to be able to identify what those limiting beliefs are and understanding like that is truly your unconscious mind trying to protect you, but you need to understand how to change that, right? How to turn that around and, teach your unconscious mind to that you are capable of doing whatever you want. There is nothing that is limiting you. You have resources all around you, right? It's just how are you leveraging those resources? But everything that you need is already around you. You have what you need already. So you need to just go out and get it, but it's around you if you really want it. So that was huge for me. And the mindset thing, I can go on for a little while about that, but focus on your mindset, man. Like that's gonna change everything. That's really the start before, for me, mindset and God, right? But it intertwines. Your mindset is huge. Focus on that. Focus on moving forward and priming your mind and not letting those limited beliefs stop you. You'll be able to do amazing things.
I love what you're talking about, Rud. So as you're hearing Rudley talk, and closing out here, the ability to really tap into your mindset, your faith, overcoming fear, that continued growth mindset, and continued learning are all of these things that Rudley is tapped into. And so really, truly hope that you go check out his website. If you have continued questions, can the people reach out to you, Rudley, through the website?
Yeah, you can hit me on my website, k1homesolutions.com. I'm on Facebook under Rudley Kelly, as well as K1 Home Solutions, Instagram at Rudley Kelly. So yeah, I'm definitely I'm into helping others as much as I can. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions regarding real estate matters. I'm here, or just
I
life in general.
appreciate you, Rudley. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
I appreciate you, Ben.
What's up, Legacy Hustlers? I hope your cup is overflowing with inspiration, motivation, and knowledge after listening to our guests today. And if it was, don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, comment, and share with your friends so we can continue to grow the base of listeners. Shout outs to Chris from Sideline Records for always producing an amazing episode. Jonathan Leonard, we see you. Thank you for the intro music. And to our listeners, until the next time we connect, please don't get in your own way in the pursuit of your dreams.